Tonight, President Trump deploys ICE to the nation's airports, with TSA shortages causing huge delays and Congress in a funding standoff.
I'm Skyler Henry in Atlanta. Airports nationwide are strained as TSA officers continue to work unpaid and travel troubles are mounting fast.
And I'm Cristian Benavides in West Palm Beach, Florida, where the president is demanding Democrats get in line, and they are pushing back.
They are in control of every element of government. They're in control of what we vote for and don't vote for.
Also tonight, the Iran war intensifies. Ballistic missiles hitting Israel. CBS's Charlie D'Agata is there.
Here in Iran, you can see this massive crater left behind from the strike and destruction in every direction.
The economic hits adding up. More pain at the pump with energy costs soaring.
It's getting outrageous. I mean, more than the cost of living that we earning.
New CBS polling tonight on what Americans think. Flooding catastrophe in Hawaii.
I'm Carter Evans overlooking the Pacific, where a series of storms has devastated the islands. Oahu and Maui hit especially hard,
while the West gets scorched.
I'm meteorologist Andrew Kozak. Why everything about this heat wave is extreme.
And later, let's roll. NASA's giant moon rocket returns to the launch pad. CBS's Mark Strassman is there.
Behind me, that's the Artemis II moon rocket, 32 stories tall, back on the launch pad for NASA's first lunar mission in more than a half century.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this very busy Sunday. Tonight, the war in the Middle East is entering its fourth week, with Iran dismissing President Trump's threats to strike the country's energy infrastructure tomorrow if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened. The Islamic regime called that threat, quote, desperation. Iran this weekend using ballistic missiles to target Israel, injuring dozens. Tonight, a new CBS poll finds 66% of Americans see the war as a choice as opposed to a war of necessity. Most surveyed also say the conflict will make the U.S. economy weaker. Only 15% say it will be stronger. The ripple effects keep hitting energy costs and American wallets. Gas prices are up nearly $1 since the war began, with California drivers paying the most per gallon. Rising fuel prices have also sent airline tickets soaring. United cutting more flights as it eyes oil above $100 through next year. That plus spring break and a funding standoff in Congress has created a perfect storm for travelers. Again this weekend, flyers facing those long lines at security. TSA screeners still working without pay. We have CBS News correspondents covering it all. We begin with Skyler Henry at the airport in Atlanta.
Hey, Jerika, good evening to you. To call the situation here a mess would be an understatement. Tempers are flaring. Patience is running thin. DHS says 400 officers have quit since this all began, and the number of call-outs has hit a record high this past weekend. Chaos and frustration at many of the nation's airports as TSA lines snake through terminals. In New Orleans, the line stretched into the parking garage with no pre-check or priority lanes open.
Water.
At Atlanta's airport, bottles of water are being handed out to wary travelers. Here we met Julie Curtis, in town for her son's wedding. After 4 hours in line, she and her family missed their flight home.
We've just been standing and seeing our feet are killing us, and my husband has a heart condition on top of that.
Now, the Trump administration says ICE officers will be stationed at hotspot U.S. airports starting Monday to assist with TSA screenings. They will undergo some training between now and tomorrow.
They run those same type of security machines at the southern border, right? Packages come through or people come through.
50,000 TSA officers are going unpaid due to a partial government shutdown. Lawmakers at an impasse to fund the Department of Homeland Security, triggered by Democrat outrage at ICE tactics in Minneapolis. 2 Americans were killed by ICE officers. Democratic lawmakers are demanding officers unmask and wear IDs.
If they come here, where it's going to make a lot of people scared to travel.
ICE will keep us safe, and I don't have a problem with ICE agents.
Today, the president of the union that represents TSA officers slammed the idea of ICE at airports, saying TSA officers deserve to be paid, not replaced by untrained armed agents who have shown how dangerous they can be. We haven't heard exactly which airports will get ICE agents tomorrow, but we know that there are 20 U.S. airports, both big and small, that have private security, and they haven't had to see any of this, including international airports in Kansas City and San Francisco. Of course, the private security is under federal oversight. Jerika.
All right, Skylar Henry, really feel for those travelers there behind you. Thank you. For more on the funding standoff, let's check in with Christian Benavides, who is traveling with the president in West Palm Beach. Christian, we've seen those long lines for days now. Are lawmakers any closer to striking a deal?
Good evening, Jerika. Well, it's not really clear. It's day 37 of this partial government shutdown, and the back and forth between lawmakers is only escalating.
The Senate was in session today, but there is no end in sight to the shutdown fight or the blame game, with Democrats and Republicans still far apart on a deal to fund the Department of Homeland Security.
They're trying to play political games while Americans are frustrated.
This is a Republican shutdown. They're in control of what we vote for and don't vote for.
The president is using social media to call the Democrats lunatics and unreasonable for not agreeing to a deal. Now, with ICE agents set to be deployed to airports, both sides are digging in.
I don't think Trump has a choice. If you want to keep our airlines open, you want our airports open, you want to keep people safe, he's going to have to do something.
The last thing that the American people need are for untrained ICE agents to be deployed at airports all across the country, potentially to brutalize or in some instances kill them.
Border Czar Tom Homan says plans are still being finalized for the deployment.
It's a work in progress, but we will be at the airports tomorrow helping TSA move those lines along.
But in our new poll, a majority of Americans say that they want to see ICE operations decrease. Our poll also found that Americans have doubts about whether either party's position is worth a shutdown. Jerika?
Christian Benavides, thank you. Now to the Middle East and the expanding war. Tonight, Israel destroyed a key bridge in southern Lebanon as it battles Hezbollah, the armed Iran-backed group. More than 1 million people in Lebanon have fled the fighting. CBS's Charlie D'Agata is in Tel Aviv with the latest on the conflict. Charlie.
Good evening, Jerika. As we head into week 4 of this war, the Pentagon says each day's airstrikes are bigger than the last. Yet today, we saw Iran strike back in a dramatic escalation to this conflict. Iranian ballistic missiles struck Israel overnight, inflicting damage on a scale not seen here since the beginning of the war. The southern city of Arad targeted, emergency workers arriving to a scene of devastation. In the daylight, we saw walls sheared off apartments, windows blown out of bedrooms, a bus waiting at the sidewalk shredded to pieces. Here at the scene of one of those missile strikes, you can see this massive crater left behind. But officials tell me as bad as this was, it could have been a lot worse because it landed in the middle of this neighborhood of apartment blocks instead of a direct hit on top of one. Residents like Amelia Alouche had taken cover in shelters. You knew this was different.
Yes, totally. This is the first time that I hear something like that. I can't believe it, that you can see this destruction and everybody's alive.
It's a miracle.
I can't believe it. It's a miracle.
Nearly 200 people were injured in this strike and one in the nearby city of Dimona. Officials tell CBS News that U.S. aircraft have flown 8,000 combat missions, hitting 7,800 targets since the war began more than 3 weeks ago. Yet Iran continues to hit back, launching the first strike on Diego Garcia, the U.S.-UK base in the Indian Ocean, around 2,000 miles away and thought to be out of range of even the most powerful Iranian missiles. So the clock is now ticking after President Trump warned Iran that if it doesn't open the Strait of Hormuz completely, the U.S. will obliterate Iran's power plants. Iran responded by saying they'll shut down that vital waterway indefinitely if that happens. Jerika?
Charlie D'Agata in Tel Aviv. Tonight, Hawaii is under a flood watch after weeks of heavy rain triggered the worst flooding there in 20 years. The latest deluge pouring onto a highway in Maui. Damage across the state could top $1 billion. CBS's Carter Evans in Los Angeles has more for us tonight.
Jerika, what has hit Hawaii is just pure devastation. It's a powerful series of storms that's been pummeling the islands for days, and it's unrelenting. This is what large swaths of Oahu and Maui look like after drenching rain that hasn't been seen in decades. Entire neighborhoods swamped. The impact catastrophic.
We are now beginning to contemplate the reality that this storm could cost over $1 billion of damage.
The latest round of storms comes after days of direct hits from a type of tropical cyclone known as a Kona low. Last week, some parts of Maui saw almost 4 feet of rainfall. Now, torrential rain is falling again. On Oahu this weekend, people fled their homes as rescuers from the National Guard moved in, sloshing through waist-deep water. Some escaped in time to drive out, but for others,
man, look at this. Never seen this. 35 years on the North Shore. This is heavy.
And with the ground already saturated, the state warns a nearby dam could burst at any time.
This is it. It's reached the wall.
Residents downstream ordered to evacuate.
Citizens everywhere have been taking care of each other. That's what you do in Hawaii. That is what we are as an ohana. That's why people have not died.
At least so far, a 71-year-old woman has been reported missing, and it's feared she may have been swept into a swollen river on Maui. At least the rain is forecast to start tapering off tomorrow. Jerika?
Carter Evans, thank you. Tonight, crews in Washington state have begun a tough task. They're clearing several tons of rocks, mud, and debris from Interstate 5. Officials say some of the rocks are as big as buses. Heavy rainfall is what caused the slide. For more on the weather across the country, let's turn now to meteorologist Andrew Kozak. Andrew.
Yeah, good evening, Jerika. You know, so much of what we've seen so far in the Pacific Northwest can be traced back to the same atmospheric river. Remember that? That is affecting Hawaii. It's the Pineapple Express, and we have had so much historic flooding in the last 24 hours. Tonight, we're still seeing heavy rain, but I do have some good news. After nearly 40 to 50 inches of rain and historic flooding, we're finally going to see the sun return over the week ahead. However, the Pineapple Express continues to bring some moisture to the Pacific Northwest. Those same areas up towards Seattle, Bellingham, over toward Portland. Well, we've got more rain coming our way as we head into your Monday night and Tuesday. Heavy rain. We potentially could see some more landslides this week, something we're going to be watching very carefully. From the northwest to the southwest, where we have extreme heat warnings once again. After last week, where we had some historic March high temperatures, we have some more of the same coming our way with 90s and triple-digit heat once again in the forecast. Jerika, we will be 20 to 30 degrees above average this week in the desert Southwest.
Andrew, thank you. The Smithsonian's Museum of Natural History has a big new attraction. 2 larger-than-life bronze statues of North American bison are now permanently installed outside the museum's entrance on the National Mall. They arrived after a cross-country trip from a foundry in Colorado. They're a gift to the museum as it marks the nation's 250th founding. Straight ahead on the CBS Weekend News, a surprise in the sky over Houston. But first, this story.
I'm Anna Corin in Taiwan, where the Middle East energy crisis is being felt acutely here and right across Asia.
3 weeks into the expanding war in the Middle East, shipping through the Strait of Hormuz is only possible with Iranian permission. The waterway is critical to the shipment of the world's oil supply, and that is exacting growing pain across this globe. We get more now from CBS's Anna Corin in Taipei, Taiwan.
As drones and missiles rain havoc on oil and gas facilities across the Middle East, thousands of miles away, the war has triggered a crisis in Asia, with energy shortages hitting almost every country on the continent, all dependent on the Persian Gulf for supply. Japan and South Korea are tapping into strategic reserves, while developing countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand and the Philippines are rationing fuel and closing gas stations. In India, protests have erupted over surging prices and acute shortages. China has reserves and pipelines, but has already banned exports of jet fuel, diesel and fertilizer, which is having a knock-on effect. In self-governed Taiwan that produces the world's high-end semiconductors, there are serious concerns of what a protracted conflict will mean for the island democracy that imports 97% of its energy.
We are going to feel the same impact as other countries. The rising LNG price, rising oil price, as they're going to hurt the economy, our economy.
Its Deputy Foreign Minister, Chen Ming-chi, says the government is now racing to find alternative supplies.
What happened in the Middle East tell us that's very important for us to diversify our energy supply.
Will Taiwan be buying more LNG from the United States?
Definitely. I think that we have to diversify.
If the crisis in the Middle East drags on, it could prove to be a windfall for American energy companies, in particular natural gas producers, as governments across Asia, including here in Taiwan, try to secure long-term supply.
Anna Corrin, thank you. Still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, superstar LeBron James is playing for keeps after setting a new record. Tonight, a warning to shoppers from police in Independence, Missouri. They're investigating after Barbie dolls sold at a local discount store were found to have possibly been contaminated with fentanyl. Police believe it happened before the dolls arrived at the store. 5 packages were sold. All have been recovered. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Well, the skies were clear in Houston Saturday when some were surprised by loud thunder-like booms. Then a meteorite crashed through the roof of a suburban home, tearing through 2 stories and landing in the kitchen. No injuries to report. NASA later confirmed the booming sound was, in fact, a meteor breaking apart as it sped by at 35,000 miles an hour. This weekend, the NBA's King James added another jewel to his crown. Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James has now played in more games than any other athlete in league history. He played his 1,612th career game Saturday across 23 seasons. The 41-year-old already holds NBA records for points scored and minutes played. Next on the CBS Weekend News, it's another shot for NASA as it prepares to launch its next moon mission. But first, a look back at this day in history.
One of the great comets of the century, Hale-Bopp, has already captured the imagination of the world, and now it may help unlock some of the mysteries of the universe.
Tonight, NASA's Artemis II rocket is back on the launch pad after repairs inside the massive vehicle assembly building at the Kennedy Space Center. Early next month, NASA will try for a second time to send a crew of 4 on a flyby of the moon. Here's CBS's Mark Strassman.
This is NASA's Artemis II moon rocket, inching toward its big day at Florida's Kennedy Space Center. It's a behemoth, 32 stories tall, and set to launch humankind into a new lunar era. Boy, does this rocket pack a punch. Nearly 9 million pounds of thrust. It's the most powerful rocket NASA has ever flown.
It's a test flight, and it is not without risk, but our team and our hardware are ready.
For NASA, Artemis II blends high profile with high stakes. It's a moon mission where astronauts have never flown before on an SLS rocket or in an Orion capsule. The crew of 4 will launch from Florida. Their round trip will cover 500,000 miles. Over 9 days, the capsule will take them close to the moon but never land on it, loop around its far side, then return to Earth for a splashdown off the coast of San Diego. And this lunar adventure could begin as soon as 10 days from today.
While I am comfortable and the agency is comfortable with targeting April 1st as our first opportunity, just keep in mind we still have work to go
as we get closer to launch date.
We talked about the rocket with astronauts Christina Cook and Canadian Jeremy Hansen before they went into quarantine last week.
We built this unique, gigantic thing that's both
the most delicate thing in the world and the most powerful thing in the world.
When you look at that rocket, what goes through your mind?
Mostly I see all the hard work that went into it because it's just so close to my heart.
In 2019, outside the International Space Station, Cook was part of the first all-female spacewalk. Now she's about to become the first woman ever to go to the moon.
We were going to the moon from the very first time that humans looked at it. We are a species of explorers, and we need knowledge gain to continue.
With Artemis 2, NASA's promising us the moon again. A lunar landing will come with Artemis 4, scheduled for early in 2028. Mark Strassman, CBS News, at the Kennedy Space Center.
Let the countdown begin. Well, that is the CBS Weekend News for this Sunday. I'm Jerika Duncan in New York. We thank you for watching. Have a great week.